Mind Your Business is a game that comes in two sets, as you can see here. You only need one of them, either of them, to play solo or two players, and you need both. You need to combine them to play with 3 or 4 players. Also, as you can see, if you have both sets, they do form a single picture, which is kind of neat. So, the game can be played in different modes, cooperative, solo, competitive, and I played it 2-player competitive and also I played it solo. The general idea is still that you are a gnome, a gnome in a mine made of cards that will be randomly drawn from this deck, and you should shuffle them in a way as to also mix the orientation. And they will have different tunnels with gems and or gold and or coal. Those are the 3 resources. There will also be signs that will give you special abilities and actions if your gnome ends their turn on one of those signs. I'm gonna explain the 2-player competitive version because, well, the cooperative versions or solitaire version is gonna be very similar. You're still gonna do basically the same things, but either with random events that will mess things for you, and or with other characters that will move around the board as decided by a simple AI, and will move around the board and doing different things and messing things up for you. But your general idea is still the same. You want to go around and collect these cards. So when you are the active player, the first thing that you do is you take up to 3 actions, and your actions are to move, in which case you simply move orthogonally, for example. Another action can be to rotate the tile on which you are. Another action can be to swap the position of your tile with an orthogonal adjacent one, in which case your gnome writes the one that was that it was on. I move again. And now some of these are camps. They represent fire there. They have like a fire in them. And you know, it's you have to look twice because it's a pretty board, but sometimes I have to check where are the camps. Oh, there's one there. A camp, you can interact with a camp as if you were on it, even if you're not. So for example, for an action, I could rotate that camp if I so desire. For an action, I rotate that one. Also, for an action, you can load your cart. Each gnome has a cart that starts on one of the corners. And for an action, I can load basically all of one resource that has an unbroken line starting from my cart. For example, for the load action, I could load those 2 cards because they form that connection there leading to the card. If when I take the load action, that is the path, then I can load those 3 onto my cart, or more exactly under my cart. And those are your basic actions for your gnome: move, rotate, swap, load, or interact with a camp somewhere on the board. After that, if actually you ended your move in an area with a sign, you read the sign and you don't have to, perform the indicated action. Then you move your cart by 1 position, and finally you refill the mine. And that is the general idea. Then the next player goes. They also have 3 actions, and so, for example, I don't see a lot of exciting options there. Maybe I'll just rotate that one, move and load. Move there because I got an action, and then load that one. And then again, read the sign, perform the action, move the card, refill the mine. And you continue like this until either there are not enough cards in the deck to refill the mine, and that triggers the end of the game, or the cards have done a full tour of the mine, and in which case that also indicates the end of the game. And simply you will then look at how many cards you collected under your cart, and the player with the most cards wins the game. If there is a tie, then gems, because they're super valuable, will break ties, whereas the most, if there is a tie for gems, then gold. If still a tie, then that's it. Then you share victory. And as I said, if you're playing the solo version, there are multiple versions. The one in which you only have random events and you place one on each corner there, and when your card passes one of those events, you reveal it and you resolve it. Fail breaks, move your card +1 basically means you skip a turn, because remember, each location is a turn. That's the kind of things that you can expect from these events. Another solo variant, again, is the little goblin going around, and then you will draw each turn a card, and it will indicate what of these actions the goblin takes, messing things up, turning cards face down, super annoying. And if you're playing solo against the goblin, then there's the extra action you can take to flip cards back face up. But that's what's going to happen. In the third variant, you simply have two enemies going around the board, and again, moving things around and messing things up for you. So this is the general idea of Mind Your Business, which I find this game to be light and to be interesting enough that, okay, I wanted to play it, and I even played it multiple times. Solo, I played all versions. But somehow I was never super excited. I found it pleasant enough, nice enough. Oh, I should have mentioned you also have cards with special actions. And I guess I forgot, because sometimes I do forget that I have these cards. Each you can play once and you do what it says. But I don't know, it was missing something. I guess the problems that I have, there are times in which it was really fun to see the combinations, to be able to pull off a really cool combo, but it happened fairly rarely, and when it happened, I had the feeling that it happened mainly by chance. The luck of the draw that placed things already in a line that was already done sometimes, or didn't require a lot of effort, didn't require a lot of work. Because ultimately, and that's possibly the things that prevented me from enjoying the game more, I felt that, again, they didn't have enough actions to really legit, deliberately create interesting combos and strategies. 3 actions meant that, well, you can move and rotate and swap, and if you do that, you can't load. And so that means that I prepared something cool and I can't load it. Well, of course, then I'm planning for the next. So I know that the card will be there, so I'm gonna prepare something cool there. But can I? With 3 actions, there isn't a lot that you can do, unless, again, the board already gives you. Look at that situation right now. I won't be able to do much this turn. I could barely do like 1, 2, 3, and that ends my turn, and that is there. I don't know. I turn this one. But then if I'm gonna go here and create that path there, I don't have enough actions to load it. So I found myself that in most turns, I was just, you can usually load a card, but that's about it. And then 2, 3 times per game, I could pull off some great combos, but again, you can't really build up to them, so it wasn't very satisfying to just see when there was a good combo, grab it, and put on the card. So I felt that the random element wasn't just the deciding factor of the game, which is already a bit of a problem, but most importantly, it was really replacing agency, replacing strategies. I didn't feel that as a puzzle it worked particularly well, because either it was very easy or it was impossible. And so now when it comes again to games and you're manipulating the board, I really want to be able to make interesting decisions. And I didn't feel all that excited about it. I didn't feel that the game gave me those opportunities. So between small number of actions and the massive randomness about when it comes to the configuration of the cave, I felt that my agency was very limited. Now, again, maybe as a very light, simple game, an alternative to, the Magic Maze, Magic Labyrinth, that Ravensburger game that has been around for decades now. But even that one, I felt that actually you have more decisions, because the board doesn't change quite as dramatically as it changes when somebody collects 3 cards or they use an action by their placing. You cannot move cards without gnomes on them, so There are just a lot of random elements here that you can't control that I felt they completely deprived me of meaningful agency. So, I don't know, even when it comes to, again, a maze kind of thing, I think the classic Labyrinth is still a little more interesting. Maybe you really like the Goblin, and then that would be a draw for you. But I wasn't particularly impressed. I wasn't particularly entertained by this game, unfortunately.